All right, welcome. It's the Genesee County Compassion Club show, broadcasting to you live from flinttalkradio.com and also on ustream.tv. Back in the studios again on this cold day. It's about 5 degrees. Holy smokes.
I mean, it's up to 5?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, all 5.
Isn't negative numbers kind of like confusing? When you're like negative 20, like below. Okay, so you got this line, you go below that. I mean, why bother? You're just saying how much by levels you're being tortured beyond freezing. I mean, that's all it is.
Got John in the studios with us. Thanks, John. Love the commentary. And yeah, what the heck does that mean? I mean, once you get below 0, does it matter anymore? It's cold. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like effing. The F scale is perfect for effing. Effing cold. Yeah.
I don't know if it was negative 40 and then the next day it was 0. I bet you'd think it was warm out.
Well, that's when it gets up to 30 now. I guess we're supposed to have 2 weeks of this.
Oh wow,
2 weeks of this.
Of this cold.
Yeah, this cold. So I mean, when it gets up to 30, you will feel the difference.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna say, "Wow, man, I could take off one of the coats."
Yeah, you see people walking around in shorts.
Right. Put on tons of suntan lotion.
It's true. It's all about relativity. So I guess maybe the negatives do mean something then.
Like I said, levels of torture beyond really being tortured.
Yeah. Well, guys, stay warm, stay safe out there. Got some news for you in the medical marijuana world. Got some different things going on we want to share with you today. Let you know what's going on down at the Genesee County Compassion Club and all the other fun activities in life. Just want to share with you this week. Thanks for joining us. And, hey, we got some news coming down the pike. This is kind of a neat study. Start out with the week. And, this is kind of a no-brainer when you stop and look at the numbers behind it. But the headline is Elderly Use Increasing Marijuana Use. I don't even know if I said that right. The use among elderly people ages 50 plus is definitely increasing. Studies are showing now that use has more than tripled from year 2002 to 2008. And, I think that, like I said, this is an obvious thing to me as you see more and more baby boomers hitting the elderly age group, as you may refer to. Of course, if you're in that age group, you probably don't think of yourself as being elderly.
I'm 50. That's like a big goal.
John, you elderly?
I was like, maybe I'm going to start walking around with the cane more and complaining about my, Social Security
osteoporosis.
And yeah, I'm 50 though. I'm going to sit here and be depressed. No, I'm considered elderly.
Well, don't be depressed. Use some sativa. Pick yourself up.
If I did that, I think I'd just be like macrame to my chair. I mean, I'm just laying there.
So, but yeah, obviously you've got people who grew up in the 60s and 70s now hitting that elderly age bracket, and it's not a first time they've been exposed to marijuana, certainly, but we've seen use go up. It's definitely becoming more accepted. I think the age group that surprises me most is the 70s and 80s age group. A lot of these people grew up during the heyday of Prohibition, were heavily exposed to all the different drug propagandas that were put out by the government and so forth. So the evil weed to them still remains evil in most cases, but as they're starting to see it can be used for medicinal purposes, we're finding more and more folks in that age bracket, like I said, 70s to 80s, breaking out from the paranoia, if you will, and trying medicinal marijuana for some of those ailments that they have. Obviously, you have a lot of folks out there suffering from MS, different types of pains and so forth, and they've been on the pills, they've tried them out, and they're wanting to seek out something different, and you can't blame them for doing so. A lot of these narcotics that are available have harmful side effects, and in the end of life stage or in the elderly stage, these can be a definite concern. Certainly don't want to deal with any more issues than you have to, and cannabis is a viable treatment alternative for these folks. So it's no doubt that you're going to see this continue to rise, not only because of continued research and information becoming available, but it makes an impact when more and more people around them start talking about the subject matter. It starts to become more accepted, and more of the myths get exposed. People start to search out for some more truth, and lo and behold, hey, I think I might give that a try. I remember trying that out when I was in college, back when we wrote on Stone. No, just kidding. Sorry, I know I'm a youngster. But, obviously you're going to see increase in use among the elderly, so I think this is no surprise at all. But now the statistics are backing it up. All right, got some other news here. I know we got our soup kitchen coming up here at the Genesee County Compassion Club. This is February 7th. the first Friday in February. Yes, Friday. Almost said Saturday. First Friday in February, we're doing the soup kitchen again. So we'll be down at the North End Soup Kitchen, helping out the Catholic Charities down there, serving food to the needy, to the people who need a meal. Anybody really can come down there. Just get a meal ticket, get in line. But we could use your help. So if you could show up at the club on Friday, February 7th, around 1:30, we like to head over to the kitchen at about 2 p.m. so we can be there, help prepare the food, and serve it. We usually serve right around 4 o'clock. And, if you weren't aware, you do get to eat. So whatever we make, we get to eat before we serve. So you also get a meal out of the deal. Not a bad deal.
No, see, actually, I'm going to make reference to that where the award ceremony was just a few months ago, where you got an award for your involvement with the soup kitchen from the organization that
the Golden Bowl Award.
Yeah, I mean, it was significant. You guys are actually one of the top players in that small, that endeavor. I mean, you guys gave out over $10,000.
Last year, I think we gave out close to over $12,000 to the soup kitchen. I know we had an additional donation that was done by our club members here in just December. It was over $1,500.
No, and if they buy the food, they just use this a yardstick, but they have billboards around town that says, give $10, it's 60 equals 60 meals for
a dollar equals 6 meals.
So if you just add that up, what possibly, if you use that as a yardstick,
how much 60, 70,000 meals?
Yeah, that's a lot of people, folks. And the guy who was giving the award out, he was like really basically. And it was held at that Catholic church, behind the Catholic church here on St. Michael's Catholic Church.
Yeah, downtown.
Yeah, downtown.
Yep.
And so the reason I'm bringing this point up is these people are aware of who you are, what the Compassion Club is all about, and they realize how much good you're doing. So now you have kind of maybe a sympathetic group connected to churches, which is a significant thing for you to be tied to.
And I think that's what we have to do as people are trying to change how others may feel about marijuana, especially as a medicine. You got to do it by example. And the soup kitchen is one of those things that our club has been consistent at for quite a while now. Other measures that we do, like the Adopt a Highway and so forth, also make an impact, no doubt. But, I think that as we continue to lead by example, hopefully people will take notice and realize that, hey, these are just regular people. They're not your typical pothead genre that we like to refer to them as. There's always a lot of tongue-in-cheek joking around, which we don't mind getting gestured here or there, but all in all, we're just regular people just like them, and we want to see this place be better every day. And so I don't think that there's anything that we should be doing more than trying to continue on with those types of efforts. And it's just a pleasure and a privilege to be able to be part of it. It's a wonderful thing. So it's something we definitely want to continue doing, and so we're looking forward to our first soup kitchen of the year, and again, that's February 7th. So if you can make it out, definitely we'd love to have you join us. It's a lot of fun too. We get to hang out in the kitchen, prep food, serve, and the people down there are always real nice to us, so it's a real joy. But thanks, John. I appreciate the comment there.
Yeah, I wish I had known you would talk about that, because I could have loaded up that clip from that that video that you had, the one you received the reward.
People want to see that again.
That was actually a significant thing, because I was there and I was impressed by the numbers, and I was also impressed by I saw people talking before that, and I had a very strong acceptance among this group, and that's a big milestone. For say 15 years ago, we're a church organization, and I think they're still tied to the Catholic Church.
It's called Catholic Charities.
Yeah, Catholic Charities.
Yep.
Would they have been so willing to embrace a group that stands for what you guys do? And now the situation's gotten so bad here in Flint that they realize the merit, and they also see what you guys are doing on a personal level. I think that's a significant political, and also just to look at the human, connections you are making with this kind of effort. That's very significant. That's something that can't be taken away by the critics of the medical marijuana movement itself. And that's something that's I think it's going to go a long way to help you establish yourselves in this movement as something totally legitimate.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate that. That's exactly what we're trying to do, and I think that, like I said, it's definitely a privilege to be able to do those types of things. And I know our Compassion Club has been one of the leaders in the area, from the medical marijuana movement in that particular measure. So
are there any other
kudos to the members.
Do you know if there's any other compassion groups out there involved in like soup kitchens or anything else?
I have heard of a few. So I know we're not the only one out there. I know there's different collectives or groups out there, provisioning centers, if you will, that have tried to do positive things, whether it be a food drive, or maybe another Adopt a Highway type of venture. So we're not the only ones out there, but definitely I know that in this area we've probably made one of the largest impacts. And out of organizations in general, I think we're probably one of the more charitable ones out there. So it's definitely a privilege to have such a giving membership like we do. Our members really step up and make that happen for us. We couldn't do it without them, and it's just a representation of the people that come in there every day. Well, they're just regular people.
That's indicative though of this area. Back in the early 80s, when they started first going through this death rolls, as far as the batteries going, the United Way had a huge effort to gather money to help all these people affected by such things. And Flint area, when they had suffered the highest amount of unemployment entire nation, they received the most funds from this area.
Huh.
So I remember the United Way actually had Sylvester Stallone actually did the announcement about that, on a one of the public announcements, public service announcements, about this besieged city, Flint, Michigan, has the highest unemployment. Actually, is the place where they got the most money. They gathered the most money during this effort for fundraising.
Huh. Well, after 4 or 5 years of doing this, I don't doubt it. People around here definitely see that the only way to really make a difference is to get up and do it yourself. So kudos to people in our club and the people of the Genesee County. They do that. So that's an awesome thing. Hopefully we'll have some more stuff like that this year. I know we're already in the works for planning our Adopt a Highway, which will be coming up when it's warmer, so we won't worry about that right now. Won't be cleaning anything currently.
Well, you couldn't see anything underneath all that snow and ice.
It looks clean, so we're going to leave it at that.
Yeah, it's like it covers a multitude of sins, that snow does.
Yeah. You have to go out there with an ice pick. All right, I got some information here for you. I got some different studies this week I wanted to share with you. Got some news from around the country. I'll start out with this first one here. This is from the researchers at the Pacific Medical Center. This is out in California. They have done some studying, and it seems that they've found out that cannabidiol, which is a form of cannabis known as CBD, can stop metastasis of the cancer cells, which that's the growth of cancer cells and latching onto your different organs and so forth. They've found now that the contact with CBD can actually stop the growth of these cancer cells, which we've heard this before, but this is now being reconfirmed by this Pacific Medical Center. So very, very interesting. Good to hear more research being done out there. We've also had studies that we've covered in the show in the past from like the University of Harvard and so forth, that THC has the same effect on cancer cells. And, we're finding more and more use for medical marijuana every day. And I think it's neat to see this information being documented now by reputable sources. So kudos to the Pacific Medical Center out there doing their work. Hopefully we can see more of this information come through and how it can be exactly used to stop or prevent cancer from spreading in the body. Everybody out there says, hey, you'd be the richest man in the world if you found a cure for cancer. I think it's already out there. I think there's probably numerous ways to do so, probably depending on the types of cancers present. Certainly we need to be careful about making medical claims in this industry. We don't want to, say something that's not true, incidentally. But, it's interesting to see more and more research coming out showing that cannabis is an effective treatment or can be part of an effective treatment for cancer. And hopefully we can find out more information about this.
No, see, I know people talk about, there's people out there in the alternative medicines, and they always talk about making your body more alkaline instead of acidic.
Yes.
I guess acidic is supposed, because I was just thinking, is the cannabinoids considered an alkali, like something that would cause your body to be more alkaline, or maybe it's an alkaloid itself, or if they're actually related. I don't know if the familiarity in the
I believe
names.
It does.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's an alkaloid itself, but I believe it does have an effect in that regard as to making the body more of an alkaline balance. It's kind of interesting that to grow it, you need to have it be somewhat slightly acidic. So
well, see, I know plants do have a way of pulling chemicals in and then transferring, have a kind of a metamorphosis or a transformation going on inside the plant itself. So, like I know that brownfields can be planted with mushrooms, and they'll take away a lot of the heavier metals and toxins and stuff like that within the first generation of their growth. and they have a way, and it's not present though in the mushrooms
in the
themselves.
mushroom itself, right?
So I mean, that kind of stuff is like it's an amazing thing that I guess they understand it, but for the layman, the average person, myself, that's remarkable.
Yeah, almost like a magnet sort of a thing where you have a negative and a positive, and one drawing out but not having the other. But yeah, I do think it is some sort of an alkaloid. I'm not an expert on that, so I'm not going to get into it too much. Exactly how it stops, the cancer cells and so forth. But the fact that we're finding out that it does in fact stop these cancer cells. I mean, as an alternative, or maybe an additional treatment, besides chemotherapy. If this were to be the cure, it certainly would have a much better result. I mean, we know the results of chemotherapy and radiation can often be sometimes, lethal in some cases, and in most cases, if nothing else, at least highly uncomfortable. Such bouts of extreme nausea follow most chemotherapy treatments. You've seen the hair loss and so forth, the other types of symptoms that go along with that. I mean, if we could treat people's cancer with some sort of cannabis-based medicine, I mean, the side effects to that could be a dry mouth. And I'm certain that that would be a much more plausible effect for a patient versus that having their hair fall out.
Because I think it's more specific. I mean, what's attacking? I mean, chemo basically goes after everything. It strips the body of everything, destroys the cells, everything.
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. With the chemotherapy, it's killing off all cells, and we're hoping that the good ones grow back. Whereas with the cannabinoid treatment, we're simply going in and attacking the actual cancer cells, leaving the other healthy tissue intact. So, like I said, I think we need to have more research on this, but we are finding out daily, almost it seems, that it is being used for a multitude of different types of cancers. And, if like I said, if this happens to be the cure for cancer, which, some folks out there honestly believe that it is, I think we need to have more scientific documentation. And I know that that's not always my feelings in regards to everything, but if you're going to promise somebody or insinuate to them that, hey, this is going to cure your disease like a cancer, you definitely want to be certain of that. And I think that's where we have to be careful, especially as patients and caregivers in the medical marijuana business. Even though we may see research like this coming out constantly, and it seems to be that it does have a positive effect on that, we also want to be very careful and not promising something to someone that we can't guarantee. But all in all, I think this is a definite positive information, and I think that it could possibly be a cure for cancer. But again, as more research becomes available, we'll keep you posted and let you know exactly what we're finding out. And it's exciting to see this. I mean, if we could have alternative cures for this disease, it certainly would be a positive thing in our society. And, if nothing else, it seems like it would be a better experience for the patients. And I think that'd be an important thing too. All right, got some information here. This is from the American Farm Bureau Federation, the AFBF. This group here, back in 1995, they issued a statement stating that they should have more information, more studies be done on industrial hemp and its impacts. Just recently, they announced a change in their position and issued out a new policy for the decriminalization of industrial hemp. This is a new stance that the American Farm Bureau Federation is taking. They feel that there's enough information out there now that we don't need to worry about industrial hemp falling into the wrong hands or getting someone high, as we know now that it does not produce THC like the medical marijuana does. So there's no high associated with it. It's not normally used for consumption, at least not in its natural form. And no, it does not have any psychoactive properties to it. However, it can be used in a multitude of different products, as we've talked about before, and as we've seen in a whole host of different materials that are now currently being imported into the United States. However, we're not producing any of it ourselves, so this could be a big boom in the economy, and the American Farm Bureau Federation agrees with that. They think that this should be used, that it could help supplement some of the farmers' incomes out there, and also produce a myriad of different products that we currently are already using in this country. So kudos to them for standing up and issuing this. As more groups, important groups like this stand up and ask for this to be reviewed, hopefully we'll see an impact in our nation's policy in the near future.
You know, my observation though is the only one of the biggest ways to get somebody to take notice, the legislators, to get notice of this, is to have some kind of crisis happen where something that we import made from hemp is no longer available to us and it's desperately needed. And it's got a huge financial impact on us, the country. And then basically they'll allow for that, for us to grow it ourselves. Because, otherwise they're not going to do it. If it is status quo, they get the right supply and there is no big impact economically, they're just going to keep it illegal. But if there's something where it's like maybe some kind of, maybe if we get a big rift in Canada.
Well, I think you're right, John, but I also would have to say that I think there is a crisis going on right now.
Well, there's crisis where jobs needed, and
exactly.
We got to start finding something somebody else wants from us that we can export.
We've got to be able to come up with some new things to produce.
Right.
And, if not just for self-sufficiency reasons, but for export reasons so we can improve our economy. Farmers definitely need to have, a stable industry, and this would certainly help supplement what they're already doing out there. You've got a whole, America is known as the grain belt. You know what I mean? Like, we are the produce nation, at least we have been in the past.
Right.
And, this here is something that we've just sort of turned a blind eye to. And why are we paying to import a product that we could simply grow in our backyards? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
See, I think we lost the economic advantage all around the world when it comes to manufacturing because of labor cost, essentially.
Certainly.
Material costs, basically, the foreign suppliers of these goods and services are probably still paying for the raw materials, pretty close to what we're doing. But where they're saving is in the production of the labor. Well, we still, one thing we beat out totally is everybody else. With 2% of our population involved in the agricultural field, we produce not only for enough for ourselves, but a big portion of the world, over 200 some million other people other than ourselves. We're a nation of 300 million, keep that in mind.
Sure.
So we, with 2% of our population engaged in those activities, agribusinesses, we could produce that much and that sufficiently. Now we see if we started doing that to people, if we open up the market, our government stopped having all these damn tariffs and all these sanctions against this other country, and we can't do trade with them, and then offering these subsidies to farmers for not producing, which is a drain on where they get the money from is the taxpayer. So when we go buy for bread and stuff like, we're not paying a true price. We think we're actually getting it so much cheaper. But when you figure in the taxes that are going towards these subsidies, we're not. We're paying probably about the same as we would if we were just actually allowing the market to work for themselves. But it's hidden. So if we allow people to export their goods and we can increase what we produce to offer to the world, we can use that advantage, that agricultural advantage we still have.
Sure.
We got more arable soil, and with a 2% population, well, that also now increase with the demand from abroad. That population will increase in those fields.
Well, and I think in addition to that, the ability to manufacture a host of different products from industrial hemp would make a major impact in our economy, but also in the green policy. We have a lot of people right now that are concerned with things like global warming and preserving and conserving our Mother Earth, if you will. And if you look at things like the lumber industry, how long does it take to grow a tree as compared to how long it takes to grow a hemp field? You've got one season compared to 30 years. There's not a lot of comparison there. The impact on the soil erosion and so forth. Hemp can have a lot of benefits to it in regards to keeping a green policy for our country, and I think that's something else that we should be concerned with. So you say we're not in a crisis. I think if you look at the economy and things of the way of the world as far as with pollution and so forth, I think that we are in a bit of a crisis. This is something that could have a long-term effect on our own country, and something that I think we need to consider for a host of different reasons.
Well, I know for marijuana, when the marijuana grows, you harvest it, you got a pretty thick stalk, right?
True.
Okay. Well, I know that'd probably be similar to the hemp production.
So hemp is actually quite a bit even larger.
Right, larger. So now, can you imagine that for use for fiberboard for construction? So you can keep construction costs. If we allow the wide-scale cultivation of this, we can have
paper
cheaper
products alone would be a huge impact,
and a better type of paper than wood pulp paper.
Yep.
Not so acidic, doesn't break down, doesn't yellow as soon as it as the paper now we currently have.
You think about the cost of the lumber industry and compare it to the cost of hemp. I would think, I'm not an expert on this area here, but I would think that industrial hemp would be a lot cheaper to produce than trying to go in and harvest a forest and then reforest it and so on.
Well, if you look at this equation for time for a tree to grow so it's actually a usable state, how many years have to lapse for that to happen?
Sure.
Which, if time is truly money in an economic model, which it is, yeah, definitely. I mean,
A big difference.
You can reap so much more out of growing hemp than you could just a couple of trees.
Absolutely. So kudos to the American Farm Bureau Federation for standing up and issuing their new policy on this. And, I think we're going to see a change here, hopefully sometime in the near future, on our industrial hemp as a nation. I mean, we've got multiple states right now with ballot measures and different proposals up there. So we'll see. Keep you posted. All right, if you didn't see it in the news this week, it was kind of an interesting thing. The president, Obama, came out and said that he doesn't feel that weed is any more harmful than alcohol. Kind of sums it up right there. I know most of us in the medical marijuana industry would second that type of mentality. But I think it's interesting that the president came out and publicly spoke about this. So
if he feels so strongly about it, though, he's been using executive orders left and right. He could do the same thing with this.
Yeah, probably
he could.
You know, I think that I don't know if the rescheduling of the drug policy would take an act of Congress, or maybe an executive order, or maybe just the DEA to change their policies. But at any rate, from a president who's openly admitted to smoking marijuana in the past, I think this is something that probably could have been stated quite a bit earlier, a long time ago, if you will. I think it's an obvious fact when you can die from alcohol consumption. There's no ODing when it comes to marijuana use. And, at any rate, I think that at least to the positive side, I think it's good that the president's coming out and saying something about this. This is the first thing he said about marijuana in quite some time. Of course, this was in response to the two states, Washington and Colorado, legalizing marijuana for recreational use. But at any rate, I think it's good that the president came out and said something about this. This is his second term. So who knows? Maybe something will happen towards the end of his second term that we've all been hoping for, such as like maybe a reclassification, maybe some type of decriminalization. Who knows?
Let him use his pen and his phone for this, though. I mean, that's why I'm challenging him, and I hope he hears this. I mean, of course, I don't think he listens to the broadcast, but right. It was like, yeah, you've been acting like a king, Lee, and everything else. So why don't you do that? If you really feel that strongly, then put your money where your mouth is, pal.
That would be nice. That would be nice. But at any rate, what we get now is a nice little comment, and so at any rate, there we have it. The president's finally come out and said. And it's not just him coming out there, it's the presidency saying that. So who knows? Maybe we'll see policy change in the future. Definitely can keep our hopes going, that's for sure. All right, out in New York, our neighbors to the east, there's a medical marijuana potential change out there. The governor's looking to possibly make medical marijuana available to people out there. They're looking at putting the program specifically through hospitals. Up to 20 different hospitals across the state would be involved in clinical research for medical marijuana. This particular one here, Roswell Park Cancer Institute, was one of the groups that was petitioned by the governor to possibly participate in this program, and their officials at the hospital have stated that they hope to incorporate their clinical research into medical marijuana. And quite a few other groups around the state have also contributed the same sentiment and said that they are looking forward to participating in the program. This interesting part about this is the Roswell Park Cancer Institute. Obviously, they specialize in cancer treatments, and they're looking to see how this would coincide with someone's chemotherapy treatments and helping to alleviate their nausea that's associated with those treatments. I would like to see them go a step further and possibly seeing if they could alleviate their cancer with marijuana. But at any rate, we will see. The state of New York had a petition that was put through, a law that was passed back in 1980, and this change here would be based on that law back in 1980. So it's not a new law in New York, if you will, but it's an enactment of a current thing that's already been processed in the past. And the governor is looking to see if this could be done, and it may come to fruition in this year. So they've already sent out, like I said, petitions to different hospitals around the state that could potentially participate in the program. And, I think it's interesting how that would work. It would be for doctors to have a close working relationship with their patients. There would be no caregivers involved. It would simply be a hospital-patient relationship. So definitely different than what we have here in Michigan. But at any rate, at least some patients there could get relief. So I think it's a good thing. I'd like to see that be expanded to additional patients in the state, but at least this could be a potential first step out there in New York. All right, I got some other information here for you. This was on a study done by, or actually it was posted in a journal on drug and alcohol dependence, a study done by Dr. Bon Miller, and this was done on patients with PTSD. Now, what they were doing is treating patients with medical marijuana from local dispensaries that were suffering from PTSD. And this is one of the first studies that was done specifically on patients with PTSD. And what they found is that the majority of these patients out there were commonly using medical marijuana simply for sleep, just trying to get a good night's sleep. And of course, all the benefits that come along with getting rest for your body. But they found that the majority of the patients out there that had PTSD were using this just simply to get a good night's sleep. A lot of them were able to overcome the nightmares that they were having and just get a good night's rest. So kind of interesting there. I mean, it seems awfully simple, but if you stop and take a look at the impact of someone who is not able to get a good night's sleep, I mean, this can be seriously detrimental to their health. So even though it may seem minuscule as to what they're treating with or dealing with here, I think that the overall results could be have a greater magnitude, if you will. This is something that, like I said, I mean, go for a few nights without sleep and see how you feel. These folks here, they are suffering from PTSD, so this isn't just a 1 or 2 night thing. This is something they deal with daily, and not being able to get rest because of their symptoms. Heck, just being able to give them a good rest without something that's addictive, I think that could be highly positive for them. So, good information there, Dr. Bon Miller. Thanks for studying that. I think, again, this is one of those studies that really just kind of wraps itself around the obvious. But at any rate, we need these studies to sort of document what's already being found. At any rate, good stuff there. All right, this is some interesting news here. This is from Dr. Piazza, and he has found that there's a hormone that's released when ingesting marijuana, specifically THC. This hormone is called pregnenolone, if I'm saying that correctly, pregnenolone. This is a hormone that's released by your brain when you are ingesting THC. And what it does actually is it counteracts the effects of THC, and it is produced in magnitude when the body has an additional amount of THC in it. So this could be potentially one of the reasons why it is impossible to overdose on cannabis because your brain actually has a trigger inside, if you will, that releases this hormone, pregnenolone, and it simply counteracts the effects of THC. So therefore, it will not allow you to get too high, if you will, and prevents any overdose that could be associated with the drug. So interesting there. I've never heard of this before. I mean, we've all been told that there's no possible way you can overdose on marijuana. There's never been a death associated with its use. There's no lethal dose rating associated with it. And now we know that part of that reason is because of this hormone that your body releases all on its own in the presence of THC, and it counteracts the effects of the drug. So interesting information there. Again, that's from Dr. Piazza. And I guess that makes sense. You stop and think about it. Let's see, what other kind of information we got here? This is off from leafscience.com. You can check this out if you will. These are 3 studies that prove vaporizers are good for your lungs. So kind of interesting here. Like, what? Yeah. Number 1, vaporization is a smokeless cannabis delivery system, a pilot study. This is from Abrams et al. 2007, published by the University of California in San Francisco. It compared the effects of vaporizing to smoking a joint and found that vaporizers could provide the same levels of THC while reducing the amount of carbon monoxide that enters the bloodstream. The study involved 18 participants, and it concluded that a smokeless cannabis vaporizing device delivers the same level of active therapeutic chemical and produces the same biological effects as smoking cannabis, but without all the harmful toxins. So that's one of the reasons there. Number 2, decreased respiratory symptoms in cannabis users who vaporize. This was a study in 2007 published by the University of New York at Albany and the University of Southern California. It linked marijuana vaporizers to a decrease in respiratory problems associated with marijuana and cigarette use. See here, using data collected from an internet survey, researchers found that among cigarette and cannabis smokers, those who vaporized their cannabis reported less lung-like problems, including coughs, phlegm, tightness in the chest, and those who didn't. It concluded regular users of joints, pipes, bongs, water pipes might decrease respiratory symptoms by switching to a vaporizer. And then number 3 here, pulmonary function in cannabis users, support for a clinical trial of the vaporizer. Early, Wine, and Van Dam, 2010 by the University of New York at Albany, took the 2007 findings a step further. Scientists gave vaporizers to a sample of 20 regular cannabis smokers with existing lung problems and observed the effects of 1 month of daily use. Following a month of vaporizing, the patients showed meaningful improvements in lung function, which according to researchers were comparable to those who quit cigarettes. So there you go. This is 3 studies that prove vaporizers are good for your lungs. Of course, this is mostly in comparison to smoking, outright smoking of joints or bongs, pipes, and so forth. So they're definitely an improved delivery method of cannabis to yourself. So if you have a chance, check out a vaporizer. Of course, there's a lot of them out there, and one of those being the e-vaporizer or the pens, as we've known to as we become to know them. The pens, probably one of the more popular vaporizing units out there nowadays. And these are first introduced, to my knowledge, first introduced as an e-cigarette, which now most people are using them, that I've seen at the club, using them for medicine delivery methods. And, this is interesting because just recently here in Genesee County, the Genesee County Commissioners were looking to ban, potentially, the use of e-cigarettes in bars, restaurants, and other public places. One of the leaders of this is Commissioner Archie Bailey, who's been an anti-tobacco person for quite some time, kind of a crusader, if you will, is potentially looking to ban these from being used in public places. Now, of course, he's referring to e-cigarettes, not vaporizers, as we know them. And, these e-cigarettes expel water vapor when they're being used, not actual smoke. It doesn't contain carbon monoxide or anything like that. And I'm kind of wondering what the impact here will be. It'll really depend on the language, if they do pass anything, of course. But if they do pass something, will it be just strictly for e-cigarettes? Would it be for tobacco use? Would it be for any type of vaporizer out there? Who knows? Definitely some questions that I had when reading this article. This is from MLive. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I kind of think like I can see how people would be first alarmed by the use of an e-cigarette in public. They've been sort of conformed, if you will, to, we don't smoke around indoor places anymore nowadays. And so all of a sudden you see a puff of something go up into the air and automatically assume it's a cigarette. And there's a lot of people that feel offended by that, or they don't want to be around that. And, oh, no, it's not a cigarette. It's my e-cigarette. That's not smoke. It's just water vapor. So, the cause for alarm is not needed, blah, blah, blah. But, apparently some people still feel offended by this or still feel worried that it might have some sort of health effect on them. I can't say that I've personally even noticed it in public, going out to restaurants and so forth. If people are e-smoking there, can't say it's been enough for me to even notice, let alone be bothered by it. But, would this potentially ban the use of vaporizers? I don't know. Is it something that the commissioner is even aware of? I'm not sure. But as you know, public consumption of cannabis, even if you are a medical patient, is not a legal thing. So it's not like you get a right taken away or by any means there. But, this is something that as we continue to look at trying to protect society, how far do we really want to go? Is water vapor something that we need to be concerned with? I guess you'll have to be the judge. You tell me. Any rate, vaporizing is definitely healthier than smoking. So if you are going to be ingesting your cannabis through the lungs, try a vaporizer out. It's a better way to go and can make you feel better for doing so. All right, got some other information here. This is a study that was done on CBDs, cannabidiol. This one here says, may prove as an attractive alternate to current antipsychotic treatments. All right, well, guess we could chew on that for a minute here. Now, we've heard the myth before propagated that marijuana can cause schizophrenia. And I think we dispelled that rumor here a couple weeks ago on the show, and we found that that is not the case. However, now they are doing more research, and latest study published in the Journal of Neuropsychopharmacology. John, do you subscribe to that, neuropharmacology?
I think I let that lapse last year when I decided to go with the computer stuff. Computer stuff.
All right, well, for all you readers out there of neuropsychopharmacology, you've already heard this. But at any rate, for those of us that don't subscribe, Dutch and British researchers reviewed more than 66 past studies on CBD and psychosis and concluded that the compound offers a number of advantages over current drugs. It says, given the high tolerability and superior cost effectiveness, CBD may prove to be an attractive alternative to current antipsychotic treatment. The authors point out that CBD, unlike a vast majority of medicines, appear to have no noticeable side effects and no lethal dose. Several lines of evidence, including animal and human studies, also report its effectiveness as an antipsychotic medicine. One of the most promising studies done in 2012 involved 39 people with schizophrenia, 20 who were given CBD, and 19 who were given the antipsychotic drug amisulpride. At the end of the 4-week trial, those who received CBD showed the same levels of improvement as those who received the amisulpride. More importantly, CBD did not cause the hormonal and weight imbalances that the amisulpride did. It says here, the results were amazing. Daniel Palmieri, a PhD, professor of pharmacology at the University of California, Irvine, who also co-authored the study, not only was CBD as effective as the standard antipsychotics, but it was essentially free of the typical side effects seen with the antipsychotic drugs. So kind of interesting there. I mean, we well know that marijuana doesn't really have a lot of side effects. CBD specifically by itself doesn't have hardly any, according to this here, and was certainly just as effective as the ones that do have these side effects.
The chemicals connected to marijuana typically are not stored in the fat cells, are they? They're usually water soluble, aren't they?
No, they're not water soluble.
They're not water soluble?
No, they are not.
Okay.
And they do actually store in your fat cells.
See, I was just thinking because I know a lot of the drugs I know that are cause psychosis, or they think they might have these chemical compounds rather than the drugs, actually usually are stored in the fat. So that was my theory, but I just kind of got shot to hell on that. But it was I thought it was like water soluble stuff usually passes through the system faster.
Good point. And I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I think the difference is that your body is naturally built to receive cannabinoids.
Right.
I mean, you already produce them on your own, known as endocannabinoids. And so I think the difference there is that the synergy between the substance and the human body is something that can't be overlooked.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these other types of drugs out there that we're ingesting for various ailments and sicknesses, I mean, they are completely foreign to your body. And the effects that they have on that, whether they be positive or negative, can vary quite greatly. But when you have a product like cannabis that is synergistic with the human body and the central nervous system, I think that's something there that is one of the reasons why it's so effective for so many different types of sicknesses and ailments out there. And one of the reasons why it doesn't have the harmful side effects that these foreign substances oftentimes do.
It makes you wonder because before legislation, before governmental roles, life. I mean, I always blame the government for everything, so I'm a biased person on this. But if before this, I mean, our ancestors, European ancestors, mostly of us are from. Maybe that was also for African Americans and all that. But I mean, our ancestors. It just maybe we could go far back enough. Maybe a lot of them did consume types of cannabinoids, in their diet, and also maybe they did use it for medicine, and it was lost to antiquity, wasn't written down because many times the cultures didn't have a form of writing. So it just makes you wonder because if it's so prevalent so easy to assimilate into the body. Obviously, I think somebody else would have discovered that years before. I think legislation and the threat of incarceration has probably prevented a lot of things from being, fully examined.
The past 70 years of prohibition have been no friend to the information network or information line that's available on cannabis. I mean, if you go back to the early 1900s, late 1800s, cannabis was one of the number one prescribed medicines, one of the number one used medicines in the households, and it was used for all kinds of things.
Right.
So I think that, if you were to go back in history, if you would, I think you would find that it was commonplace, that it was used quite frequently for all types of different things, sort of a one-all, heal-all type of thing. And, like I said, I think the last 70 years of propaganda has really been the most damaging as far as people, starting to change the mindset on, oh, yeah, you use this for that, and, well, no, now this is an evil thing. So.
Yeah, it just goes to show you there's a lot of things that work here. I mean, incarceration and the legislation, all that stuff, those threats are like tied to something much larger and beyond the scope of one show. But I mean, why do we accept things as they are in society when some lawmaking body decides this is no longer good for us? Even though it runs totally counter to our own experience, we permit them to overrule our own judgment on that.
Propaganda is an effective tool.
There's I guess often you say something often enough, and often enough, it's going to become known or expected as the truth, even though it might be seriously in error. If you say it loud enough and harsh enough, and then you got the power behind you, you can make everything
fly.
Right. So I mean,
the sky is falling.
Right. It's like I think it's insanity. I mean, it's just a we accepted this on ourselves. That's what it irks me. I mean, I was part of that myself. I mean, it was like, and I'm not, I still don't smoke weed. I still don't care for it. I'm not going to do it. It's not for me. But if I had a medical condition, and I was looking at, chemo, I definitely would I would do it. Hands down, I would do it beyond what I've seen chemo does to people,
Sure. So. And I think that's it. I mean, propaganda is an effective tool. There's no doubt about it. And we have to be careful about the information because nowadays we're inundated with information constantly. And so we really have to be careful about what we accept as truth and fact and do our research to make sure that we're checking these things out. All right, got some other info for you. This is a new product out there. I thought this was kind of interesting for those of you that have trouble cleaning your bowls after consuming. There's a new product out there called Cash It Clean. So check it out, Cash It Clean. It's Cash It with a K, K-A-S-H. Cash It Clean. It's a little vacuum, portable handheld vacuum device that will clean out the ash from your bowl. So you don't have to worry about tapping the glass on there on your ashtray and breaking it. And it's a common problem. But this here will do it for you. It's kind of a neat thing. Maybe we'll get those in at the club someday. Who knows? And there's another one they have also. It's a additional tip that you put on the end of your smoking apparatus, and it's called Cash It Cool. So it kind of replaces putting ice in the old bong as a trick to kind of cool the smoke down. This here does that for you. Another kind of cool product out there. These are innovative products always coming out there to satisfy the consumer. These are two new ones that are out there, so you might want to check those out. All right, another info that we've got. This is a BC company called Medigene. Now, Medigene is a big company in Canada. They produce all types of different marijuana seeds, and they produce it for pharmaceutical companies. They are currently in the process of developing low THC strains geared specifically for use on children. So I thought that was kind of interesting. We've seen quite a few different seed breeders out there starting to now specialize in CBD, CBN type of strains, which typically result in lower THC. But these strains here that Medigene is developing are specifically low in THC, and so that way it can develop a beneficial medicine for children without the high that's associated with medical cannabis. So interesting there. All right, our neighbors to the south, well, they're not really our neighbors, but they're our neighbors in the United States sense, Florida. They have gotten even closer to getting medical marijuana on their ballot for 2014. News and information recently states they're about 90,000 signatures away from getting this on the ballot. However, the governor, Rick Scott, not a fan. He says that he would be voting no to the ballot measure. But at any rate, you can't stop democracy, and if they get the number of signatures and get the wording approved through the state Supreme Court, it will be on the ballot in 2014. So getting closer and closer. They need about 90,000 more signatures. Reports say they already have the signatures collected. They're just waiting for them to be verified. So the total amount they had to get was like 683,000 signatures. The campaign people that are putting this together say they have well over 1 million signatures, and they're just currently waiting for these last bit here to get verified. Now, this is also if it gets through the state Supreme Court. The current Attorney General down there, Pam Bondi, she is arguing that the medical marijuana measure that's written out here for the ballot, that it's too vague, that it doesn't let the voters know enough about how this is going to work or what's going to happen. Now, mind you, this is kind of interesting because in order to get a ballot measure on the ballot, you are limited in Florida to having that statute be 75 words or less. So, in the thought process there, think about, well, just tell them more about it. Well, you can't because you're limited. So they're trying to get this passed here in Florida, to get this on the ballot, let the voters have their say. And, rather than just letting them have their say, the Attorney General down there is trying to stop it in the state Supreme Court, saying, well, this is too vague. Voters really won't know what they're voting for. Well, I guess I think that you should just let the voters decide. If it's confusing, they can still vote no. If they don't like it, obviously, vote no. And if they don't really care, well, it's up to them to make that choice. But at any rate, kind of a catch-22 there. It's too vague, but you can only use 75 words to describe it. I don't know. Hopefully, the people down there that need medical marijuana for medicinal purposes will get what it is that they need. And hopefully, we will not have this democratic process be held up by bureaucratic measures. But we'll have yet to see. Florida's neighbor, Oklahoma, looks like they've got a bill on the table there. Recent senator introduced a legalization bill, which is kind of interesting. Oklahoma has long been known as one of the strictest states in the union on marijuana. If you're caught with a gram down there, you could be doing up to 1 year in jail. So pretty serious fines and penalties associated with marijuana possession and use. Oklahoma, but they have a bill now that's been introduced by a senator this isn't for medical marijuana. This is straight up legalization. This would be for adults to possess up to 1 ounce and be able to cultivate up to 5 plants. So who knows if this will gain any steam. This is introduced in their legislature, so they have to go through the channels there to get processed by their state legislature. But pretty brave, at any rate, for the Oklahoma senator to step up and introduce that. I would think if nothing else, they should have some sort of relaxation of laws, if you will. It seems kind of counterproductive to put in a citizen in jail for a year for having a joint. It just seems ridiculous. But at any rate, maybe things will change. Maybe change is coming. Oklahoma, man, don't go there. That's all I got to say. All right, Maryland. They are also drafting a bill for legalization. So it looks like a lot of states are really kind of jumping on the bandwagon here. Another state that we're talking about is Alabama. They have in their legislature a CBD-only bill. This is kind of interesting. This is for medical purposes, not legalization, but this is for cannabis products that would contain CBD only. Now, one of the problems about this is that we keep hearing more and more information come out about CBD, or cannabidiol, if you will. That's the name that we're abbreviating by saying CBD. Positive information coming out about this, which is good. The problem I'm seeing with this is that there's not too many CBD only types of products out there available. Most plants don't produce CBD only. They produce a plethora of different types of cannabinoids. And so to get in the consumer's hands a CBD only product, that is the difficult thing. Now, currently, there's one type of product that's being trialed, if you will, through GW Pharmaceutical. We've talked about this before, Epidiolex, which is a CBD only product. That is being debuted, if you will, or tested in Canada and parts of the UK, but not here in the US. So if we have a state, let's say like Alabama, pass a CBD only bill, My question is how are they even going to get it? We don't know. You can't just take the CBD out of the marijuana, not unless you're a scientific lab or something like that. This isn't something that a caregiver is going to be doing per se. And as I stated before, there's very few strains out there that have an increased level of CBD over THC. We've seen some out there that will have about the same amount. There's a few strains out there that have been known. Hey, what's up? Got other viewers in the studio here. There's a few other strains out there, like I was saying, that do have increased amounts of CBD, but it is a limited choice, limited availability. So, interesting bill there. I don't know if I like it or not. I mean, it'd be nice to have more access, obviously. I'm a proponent of that. But, it has to be practical. We can't just go past things that don't make any sense. All right, got another state information here. This is from Missouri. Secretary of State there released 13 different petitions, if you will, about medical marijuana. So, or marijuana in general. State here, I guess they're looking to find out if people feel like marijuana should be legalized. Should their laws be changed to account for decriminalization? What the heck should they do? But they got 13 different petitions out there that they put out. They were released on Wednesday, and they're wondering about, what should the public do? Hey, we got a guest in the studio.
Can I ask your name?
Yes, you can. Grab a chair. Mr. Eric Gunnels joining us. Here he is.
Yeah!
How are you doing, sir?
What's up, Mr. Rubitsky?
Good. Nice to have you on the show.
Thanks, buddy. Always a pleasure stopping by.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, we're just getting through all of our different states. In fact, I only had one more thing, and I was done with the states. Can you believe all the different states out there that are, talking about, if it's not industrial hemp, it's decriminalization. If it's not that, it's medical marijuana. Then we've got legalization being talked about. It's around the country. It's not just one place.
Yeah, I've told people that when you see medical marijuana or marijuana in general has been in the news more probably in the past 2 years than it has in the past 10.
Oh yeah,
and it's definitely been in the news a lot more in the past few months than it's been in the last 2 years.
Yep.
So we're seeing the trends going right now. I think a lot of people are wising up to it. I also think that too, that whether it's big business or small business, everybody knows that this is an emerging industry, and there's room to make business on so many different levels in this. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
I think that I would like to see that.
Or at least we should stop putting people in jail for it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's huge. That's the main thing. And I think also, too, when people see how... Because I think people are waking up now to the fact, and now we've had over 40 years of the drug war going on, that, people are now waking up to the fact that, look, that was a huge waste of money. That's a huge waste of our taxpayers' money. And I'm sure that, and now I'm in politics, I see people coming to me all the time, going, what are you spending my money on? I see 2 brand new military Humvees out there, you know what I mean, and this and that. Is that what you're spending my money on? People don't realize that the Humvees or any kind of military vehicles, by the way, they come free. They're donated, okay? Those are free. So we're not spending the money on that, but they're...
You guys aren't driving those to lunch and stuff?
No, but they did come in handy on that super big snowstorm we had.
I bet they did.
Yeah, they did. They were actually... My chief of police was at Thetford Township there. Was going around pulling the state troopers out.
Oh yeah,
with the military Humvee. So they're all
But people are concerned about community resources.
Oh sure.
Whether it be actual dollars spent or personnel and so forth.
Sure.
And this is one of those things where people are looking at medical marijuana or marijuana enforcement and going, why? Why are we wasting all this money on this?
Yeah, and you in conjunction with that, you've had an erosion of the tax base. At the same time, you have municipalities which are now looking to increase taxes. We just had a fire mill, proposed increased fire mill in our township, and that fire mill failed. And it failed to pass because obviously the community feels that they're already being taxed enough, and they don't feel that we're responsible enough to spend their money on that. So, increased services, means increased taxes. Obviously, if you want fire department, police department, EMTs, and those kind of things, those are services that cost the community of the tax-paying community money. Yep. And the community is just looking at the whole economy going, well, we're not making any more money, so we sure don't need any more services to,
Yeah.
and that's what's going on.
Not a good time to expand.
No, right, exactly. In a nutshell, it's not a good time to expand. Yeah,
The
I
community
totally agree.
services. We were talking about the different states, the changes, and so forth. This is another note I wanted to share with our viewers. Harry Reid, the Senate Majority Leader, he had recently come out in a statement and said that he thinks medical marijuana should, or at least the government, the feds, should take a look at medical marijuana, their stance on it.
Sure.
So, as the nation grows, seems like the feds are starting to catch on.
Sure.
We already talked about Obama and his statement earlier this week, but, I think that's kind of interesting.
I do too, and I think it's interesting that right out of the gate, as soon as we even approach this debate over medical marijuana with the federal government, since how marijuana remains Schedule 1 as to be looked upon as no medical value, right there's the farce and the argument right off the get-go.
Absolutely.
I mean, you already have a number of scientific studies that show it's medicine, and you've already got the overwhelming support of the country. Over 50% of the country says, well, yeah, it's a medicine. Sure, we recognize that now.
I think there's only, if we have, as a count goes, 2 more states. If 2 more states pass a medical marijuana provision, then the majority of the states in the United States will have medical marijuana.
Exactly.
So, I think it's a real oxymoron for the government to sit there and say, it has no medicinal value.
Sure.
I mean, it's just...
Sure. Oh, I totally, yeah.
Somebody's ringing the bell up there.
Exactly. Hello.
Bong. That bell.
Yep.
So, one more thing I wanted to cover that I thought was important this week. This is the Senate bill introduced here in Michigan, Senate Bill 736. Have you heard about this?
This is the one with the concerning the Child Protective Services.
That's right.
Yeah.
This was introduced by Senator Jones, Senator Rick Jones. He is trying to change part of the public health code there, or part of the law, if you will.
Yeah.
And this is being viewed by many as a blatant attack on medical marijuana patients.
I would agree. I would agree.
I think you could definitely say so.
This isn't the first time, too, that Senator Jones has introduced a lousy bill. We'll attack him on that political front.
Basically, this would allow a judge to step in, and in the case of a person who has a medical marijuana card, either they're a patient or caregiver, and in this bill here, talking about a patient, it would allow the judge to overstep the boundaries of what is currently available and say, well, we'll be able to remove the children from the home if this patient, this medical marijuana patient, is allowing their medicine to interfere with the care of the child in any way that the judge deems fit. Right. So, and then there could be a sort of a list of things that the judge could do from there, all the way from removing the child. The patient could have to submit their medical records for the judge to review it.
And also seek a second evaluation, I was told.
Another evaluation by
a different department.
A different department,
Sure.
to the judge's choosing.
Right.
The judge could basically have his say in what this patient could or could not do. And then basically, have... Right now, there's already protection in the current medical marijuana law that says, CPS can't remove a child because someone has a medical marijuana card. So this bill here would be a change to the current Medical Marijuana Act by stepping in and saying, well, the judge could have the ability to remove them if it's having the ability to interfere with the child's care.
Sure.
I guess the question here is if the child's care really is in jeopardy, I think the judge already has the ability to step up and to intervene.
That's a very good point.
But if it being in direct relation to medical marijuana, I don't see how that possibly could be. I mean, obviously, if someone's putting out their joints on the child or something gross like that, certainly that could be the case. But we're talking about people who are using this as a medicinal purpose.
Sure.
And I guess the question is do we really need this type of legislation?
Right, and I mean, look at, I don't want to make too much of a comparison here but about alcohol, but I mean, look at how many parents have alcohol in the refrigerator around kids, but yet there's no question as to whether a parent is responsible because you don't see the parent just letting their kid drink. Yeah. You know what I mean? And obviously, if they did, they would. They're going to reprimand the child right then. I mean, it's not a.
And the same thing. I mean, if the person was to go to court and to be reprimanded by the judge, they're allowing their child to consume. Underage or irresponsibly, maybe their alcoholism is affecting their ability as a job as a parent. The judge is going to be able to do what he needs to do. I don't think that our current medical marijuana law is limiting our current judges from stepping in when necessary.
I totally agree with that statement, and I also want to just say this: as far as people that I know, and I certainly know a lot of people in this community around the state that have medical marijuana cards who are parents, and I've not met one parent yet who I felt, in my opinion, was irresponsible with their kids just because they're either a medical marijuana caregiver or a patient. I see no irresponsibility of conduct, from them. And to be honest with you, if I really felt that a child was in direct neglect or in danger, I would probably say something. I mean, I would have to. I would feel it my obligation to say something. But I don't see that happening. You know what I'm saying? And
I think in most cases, if there is neglect or something that going on, it's not because they're a medical marijuana patient.
Right.
It's because they're a lousy parent.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's something else going on.
Yeah, other things probably need to change.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, we're running short on time here, but I see you got some information
there.
there.
I got some information.
What do you want to share with us?
First I just kind of want to let everybody know too. I'm opening up my own little center. Yeah.
Tell us.
And it's going to be called Wildcat Corners Compassion Center, and it's located at 14007 North Lewis Road in Clio. And basically, it's going to be a compassion center, pretty much like all the rest of them in the county. But I guess I'm going to try to craft my own way of doing things and whatnot. And I don't really want to follow exactly any one particular model or whatever. I kind of want to create my own new model.
Sure.
I also, part of this center will be a nonprofit organization. I really like your model of the G3C. I really kind of want to follow that and sort of go along with that.
Fantastic.
I like that. I like I just like the atmosphere that it provides at the G3C club, and I've always have, and I just want to see that model or a model similar or something close to it, replicated, and I just want to see that I think people, whether you're talking about when you're talking about safe transfers and safe access, I think that there has to be places where people can go to make these affairs and these transfers safe. I would rather see people do this in a building type setting as opposed to a parking lot or a some kind of strange or even a residential home. I think it's more suited for a more public approach.
Absolutely.
And so I definitely think that's the way to go. And one of the things I'm going to try to really focus on is trying to get people moving toward a real, totally organic base for their growing techniques. That's one of the things I like to promote on is 100%. I like to promote 100% organic methods of growing and
cultivation
so,
and so
forth.
Cultivation,
sure. It's the way to go, I think, of the future. And if we really want to, respect this as a plant and so forth like this, we should be trying to be as environmentally sound and friendly as we can.
Absolutely, and for the patient's concerns as well.
Absolutely. Sure. We're going to have a little grand opening on Valentine's weekend, starting February 13th through the 15th, and memberships are going to be free during that time. Going to have probably a small $10 donation membership for membership costs, and I think we'll just kind of go from there.
Very cool.
And see how things are going.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. And then I'm also working with the Cannabis Stakeholders Group.
Okay.
And we've got a meeting this Saturday, January 25th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Radisson Hotel at the Capitol in Lansing. If you want to learn more about that, you can certainly go to the website. I'll give you that real quick. CannabisStakeholdersGroup.org.
There you go.
And pretty simple stuff, pretty straightforward. And we basically have a mission statement, and the mission statement is to empower the domestic community in education and community-based advocacy for patients, caregivers, and other interested persons by influencing and communicating with policymakers related to cannabis issues.
There you go.
I've
had some people ask about this. Just to clarify, anybody can attend this, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, is there a cost involved or anything like that?
In the attendance on the Saturday meeting, yes, I believe there's a cost involved with that at the Saturday's meeting, and I believe it is. Yes, there we go. $55 per person, $75 per couple. And that's if you're just an individual.
Okay.
If you're a business, I believe it's more. But yeah. But I'm sure that's just
so go as a person.
Yes, go as a person. Yes, save yourself some money. Go as a person, and we welcome everyone. And basically, this group, Cannabis Stakeholders Group, has already nominated me to the position of chairman of the steering committee. So I'm very honored and privileged to be the chairman of that committee. And since I'm already elected official of Thetford Township Board of Trustees, I have some experience, working with a meeting and
Sure.
using the Robert's Rules of Orders and all that. Plus, I learned some stuff from my good friend Jeremy here long back. He kind of showed me some things back in the day. It's kind of funny because I never really attended any kind of a meeting until that. Pretty much, I was just sort of that's for business people. I was jeans and t-shirt, greasy kind of a worker. And I was like, wait a minute, you mean we get to put on shirts and ties and sit around and talk about stuff? Oh, great idea! All right,
it sounds fancy.
Sounds good. I ain't never done that before, but I'll give that a try. No, but I honestly looking forward to it. I think the main thing that we want to accomplish with this group is that I recognize like there's other groups that have risen up in the past. There was the MAC Association in the beginning. They tried to collaborate everybody to get together and so forth, but it really wasn't a lot of communication with them and so forth. And I don't really think they really kind of brought everybody in. Plus, there's NPRA is another organization that's traveling the state right now, trying to get everybody on board.
Tell us what this one's doing though.
This one is basically we're just trying to get everybody. We're just trying to be another 501c4 to represent everyone here and to basically. Get as many people's input as possible. The input, we'll have a big meeting and we'll discuss this. And the purpose of having a separate steering committee is so that we take all these things, these issues, which either the policies that we do or do not like in any particular bill, and we hash them out, we hammer them out. And then the steering committee's job is to take the issues that we hammer out and fine-tune them into a much tighter bullet point, precise bullet point type manner so that we can convey this information across to the elected officials. And the steering committee will be the one directly involved with the elected officials or the lobbying group that we've hired to seek or help us out as well, which is also the GCSI is the lobbying firm that we've hired, and they're a very popular, well-known,
reputable firm.
Probably, very very reputable firm.
Cool.
And so they've been looking. They actually, that lobbying firm has actually turned down other groups, but they're actually willing to work with us because they feel that this is a much more grassroots type movement, and they respect that and they want to uphold the integrity of it.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you wanted to participate, please show up. That's Saturday the 25th at the Renaissance Center. No,
the Radisson Hotel.
Sorry.
Yep.
Radisson Hotel, downtown Lansing.
Yep.
It's right in front of the Capitol.
Yep, from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. Yep.
Cool. Well, we're running short on time.
Yes, I know we are.
I hate to cut you off there.
No, I know. Yep.
But, hey, guys, thanks for joining us this week. Glad we could share some information with you. Thanks for coming in today, Eric.
Yep, always a
Definitely.
pleasure. Yep.
And, John, thanks for your commentary as always. We appreciate it. Join us here next week on the Genesee County Compassion Club show and live at flinttalkradio.com.